guys, welcome back to Living Solo, Living Well, and I'm Kat, and I am a 64-year-old registered nurse. I am semi-retired, and I wanted to talk about things that annoy me more as I get older, because I know of other friends of mine and other people who talk about this same topic. You know, as we get older, it's almost like I want to say our tolerance level starts to come down a little bit, but I think it's maybe that we're more set in our ways and not afraid to express how we feel, or things that we're able to handle. We don't want to deal with them. We don't have to. You know, I feel like one of the first things, and the reason I'm talking about this is because yesterday I thought about it after I got frustrated. I was changing a doorknob on an exterior door, and I was changing out the deadbolt as well. So I was changing it from, it's kind of like a chrome look to a oil rubbed bronze, kind of the same color as my blouse. I just noticed. But anyway, I had some difficulty because it was an old doorknob, and I didn't see that the instructions were in the packet. It was a little brochure folded up into like a 1 inch by 1 inch square, maybe 1.5 inch, that you had to open up. And I somehow I missed it. It got lost in the package. And so I was struggling, and I could not, I got the knob itself off. It was like a cover, and then there was a spindle, but another thing that was sticking out. I can't quite explain it, but then the flange on the door. And I Googled it, but I could not find this particular doorknob style. It did not have a place to put a screwdriver to pop the flange off. So I was having some difficulty. So I took a picture of it and I put it on my Facebook, and I asked my friends, you know, can anybody tell me how to remove this? So within 5 minutes, one of my guy friends called, and I was so glad. He saved the day, guided me through it. It wasn't hard. It's just that I didn't know, how do you get this off? And really it just came down to getting a screwdriver and prying it behind the flange to release it from the door. The door had been painted several times in the past. Once it was, I painted recently. I started to say I haven't painted it. I didn't paint it in the past. I painted it recently. So somebody had painted it years ago, and the paint had stuck around, kind of held that the doorknob flange on. And then when I painted the door black a few weeks ago, that just kind of, sealed the deal there. So I had to, I just had to take a screwdriver or a knife and just pop that flange off. And I did cut around it where the paint was up against it. And I used a box cutter, so I kind of freed that up to where I could just pry it off. So, but anyway, one of the things that annoys me is that I have a hard time sometimes doing things without a spouse. A lot of times with a spouse, I've been married before, so they were able to do some things I'm not able to do. A lot of times they've done things like this before, so they're very familiar with it. But what annoys me the most is that I get so frustrated, and I will say there were some tears yesterday because I was so frustrated, and I thought, I just want to do this. I just want to change this doorknob. And but eventually I got it. I did. It was hot yesterday, so I had the door open, and I was sweating, and it just wasn't a pleasant situation. But now I know. And I would like to maybe possibly change out the doorknobs on the interior doors. And there are no deadbolts. That's going to be a little bit easier. Those are knobs that have screws where I can pull those off. The other one that I did yesterday did not have screws holding the flange in. You just had to pry it off. So I think I'll have a little more easier of a time if I decide to do the interior doors. But anyway, that's one of the things that annoys me, is that when it comes to doing something like that, I've never done it before, so I didn't know how to do it. I know now, but I do get frustrated easily because I'm a do-it-yourselfer for the most part, I want to do things on my own. I want to do things the way I want to do them. And it's difficult. The older I get, the more I lose strength. We all do as we age. And that makes it harder to do some of the tasks or some of the jobs around the house. So another thing that that annoys me when I get older is that when people are driving, I know this is petty. This is petty, but this is something that just, I don't understand it. You know, it kind of frustrates me, but I don't know why. But anyway, you know, when you're pulling up, when you're driving along on a road in town and there's two lanes going one way to the other, and you pull up to a red light and you're the slowest of the two lanes has the longest line of traffic. And it boggles my mind, and it's just me. It's not anything anybody's doing wrong, but I can't wrap my brain around it. And, you know, I guess maybe I strategize when I drive and I see a long lane in one lane, I see a long line of traffic. And so I'll go to the shorter line of traffic, you know, to that lane. And it just boggles my mind. It annoys me for whatever reason that everybody's lined up in one lane and there's maybe one or two cars in the other lane and they're both going the same direction. It's like, I'm not going to wait in a long line of traffic if I can get over and have less traffic in front of me in that lane. So I know that is petty with a big P. And I don't know why I'm like that, but that does annoy me. And so I just learned to deal with it. You know, if they want to drive in the slower lane with a lot of traffic, that's fine. They can do it. And I'm trying to get myself to where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not hurting me at all. It's one of those unanswered questions. You know, I'm like, why? I don't understand. So that's another thing that annoys me. And another thing that I recently, I found myself getting annoyed by is that if this has actually been over the last many years, but as I got older back then, it started irritating me, is solicitors. When you have a solicitor that comes to the front door, you know, they're uninvited. I have a sign out that says no solicitors on the door, at the bottom of the door, and nobody pays attention to it. So I know years ago when I first moved in, somebody had driven by and pulled on the road in front of my yard and stopped, got out and started walking up the driveway. And I immediately opened the door and I put my hand up and I said, no solicitors. And he kept walking. He had a clipboard. He looked official and he kept walking. And I said more firmly, no solicitors. And he stopped and made a comment about my alarm system sign and said, oh, I noticed you have that system. Are you still using it? Like, I couldn't tell if he was fishing or if he was sincerely with a company, an alarm company, trying to sell me something. I didn't care. I didn't want to hear it. And he finally turned around. I said, if you continue coming up this way, I'm going to call the police. And I know that might have been harsh, but I did not want to deal with a solicitor. I did not want to discuss my alarm system with somebody else that I did not know. So I kind of, you know, sent him on his way. So I thankfully he didn't come to the door. He turned around and left. And so I do not like solicitors. And the older I get, the more inclined I am to not answer the door. I have a front door that has leaded beveled glass and it's a full view. So I can see out if somebody's at the door, they can see in if they're close enough. And I'll just stand there and look at them and just like a cranky old person, I'll stand and I'll look at them as they're knocking and I'll point to the sign. And I've done that several times where I pointed down, like I'm pointing down at the sign on the door, no solicitors. And then they act like they did not see the sign. Maybe they didn't, but it's right there. And they'll look down and they'll go, oh. And you see them kind of motion like, sorry. And I don't answer the door. I don't engage with them. And I have a right to do that because it's my property. So I just, you know, it's one of those things. That's something that really annoys me. I don't like people coming uninvited to my house, whether it's a solicitor or a company. I want to know if someone's coming. I just don't like unannounced people. So I don't know why maybe I was traumatized as a child. I don't know. So that irritates me. Another thing that annoys me is, this has to do with my dog, but it's not her problem. It's not her fault. So she has skin issues where she scratches. The medication does not work. So we're trying different things, different food, different diet, some different topicals. And so she tends to nibble on her skin and bite her skin. She gets hot spots. And she's been that way ever since I got her. Anyway, so when I hear that sound of her doing that, it's almost like fingernails on a chalkboard. It just gets under my last nerve, and I try to tune it out, but I'm constantly saying, Sophie, don't scratch. Sophie, don't bite. Don't bite. And I hate that for her because, she itches. Benadryl doesn't work. Zyrtec doesn't work. Nothing has worked. I will say a double dose of a drug from the vet called Apoquel, that will work, but that's close to $200 a month, and I can't pay that. I'm semi-retired and I'm barely working because I have injuries from a work-related injury. And so I just can't afford $200 a month. So that's why we're trying a couple different hopeful solutions. So anyway, that noise that she makes when she's doing that, it's something that I can't stand the sound of. And bless her little heart, she has no control over it. She doesn't know, and she's just trying to scratch. So anyway, but for whatever reason, that's just something that really annoys me. And so the other thing, as I get older, something that annoys me, and I saw this the other day. There was a woman on a video that I was watching, and people were talking to her. She was sitting in her car talking to them, and she was chewing gum, but she was chewing gum with her mouth open. It kept opening kind of like that. And it was disgusting just watching her. And I don't know why that really gets my goat, but it just seems, I don't know, it sounds weird. And when you hear them smacking, but just seeing inside their mouth, it's a no for me. Thank you. So anyway, these are a few of the things that annoy me as I get older. And I just, I don't know why. It's just me. Maybe it's me getting older. I don't know if it's me just in particular. If I were younger, would this bother me? I don't know. So anyway, I'd like to hear what everybody thinks. Do you have situations where people do things that annoy you? And do you think that's because you're older? Or is that something that, maybe has been that way all your life? But I'd like to hear what other people have to say about, as you've gotten older, what's changed? What kinds of things have made you more annoyed as you've gotten older? And I'm sure it'd be interesting. I'd love to hear all the different comments. And again, these are just personal things. These are not things that I fault anybody for. It's just things that just make my skin crawl. And I just thought I'd talk about some of those because I saw a few things recently and it made me kind of jog my memory about, oh, I hate that. So anyway, just leave a comment and please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.